All right, so again, as we said, the two numbers that we get out of all this is the ending inventory and the finished goods inventory. So now comparing the two methods, weighted average and FIFO. FIFO assumes that all of the higher cost units from the previous period in the beginning working process are the first to be completed and transferred out, and that the ending working process consists only the lower cost current period units. The weighted average smooths out the cost per unit, equivalent unit, by assuming that more lower cost units are transferred out and some higher costs remaining in working process. So basically, you know, first in, first out means what was in there comes out first. Weighted average, we kind of lump it all together and take it out, you know, together like that. Now, managers use information from process costing systems to make pricing and product mix decisions and understand how well the firm's processes are performing. FIFO provides managers with information about changes in the cost per unit from one period to the next. You know, because you're separating those costs out. Whereas weighted average, you kind of put them all together, so it's hard to determine how the actual costs are being affected. In a period of rising prices, weighted average method will decrease taxes because cost of goods will be higher and operating income will be lower, okay? So in increasing prices, what's still going to be in work in process in FIFO? The higher prices. That means expenses are lower, income is higher, taxes are higher. Does everybody understand that? Okay. For the transferred in costs, are costs incurred in previous departments that are carried forward as the product's cost when it moves to a subsequent process in the production cycle. They're also called previous department costs. Journal entries are made to mirror the process in production from department to department. Transferred in costs are treated as if they are separate type of direct materials added at the beginning of the process. So basically, transferred in costs are those costs that they're not so much direct materials of the product themselves. It's not labor. It's things that we add into the process. Kind of like this product, this part of the process was over here. This part of the process was over here. This process comes into this process. So we're transferring the cost in to the new process. Kind of like bringing two pieces together into a puzzle piece, you know. So now we're going to go over an example of the transferred in costs. So we have 240 units in beginning inventory. We transferred in during the period 400, so we have to account for 640. We have completed and transfer out is 440. So what's left in? 200. You take that 640 minus 200. No, I'm sorry, 640 minus 440 gives me 200. So same process as before. That's the first thing you got to do, is determine how much you have to account for and how is those units broken out. Okay? Now it tells us that of the 200, again, the transferred in costs, all the transferred in costs are accounted for. All the direct materials are accounted for. All the conversion costs are accounted for the items completed and transferred out. So 100%, okay? For the working process, you know, we have the three buckets. We have the transferred in. They say 100% of all the costs were already transferred in. For the direct materials, we have no direct materials put in. And then for the conversion costs, we have 80% of the conversion costs put in. Okay? Why wouldn't there be any direct materials added?
Because that's the transfer in.
That's the transferred in. Okay? All right, so for equivalent units for transferred in costs, we got 640. For direct materials, we have 440. And conversion costs, we have 600. Okay? Any questions on that so far? Same process as before. All right, so work in process. The first one we're doing here is we're doing the weighted average. How can I tell this is weighted average?
Because we use the total amounts.
Yeah, in step 4 we use the total amount, don't we? All right, so work in process for the transferred in parts is 33.6, 0 in direct materials, and 18,000 in conversion costs. We cost added during the period is 52,000 transferred in cost, direct materials 13.2, and 48.6 of conversion costs. Okay. All right. So cost to date, because we're doing weighted average, we take the 85.6, which is the total cost to account for transferred in, divide it by the total equivalent units, get 640, and so my cost per unit is $133.75. Same thing for direct materials, 13.2 divided by 440 gives me $30. The conversion cost 660, that's a really bad number. 66,600 divided by 600 gives me 111. And then you take those costs per unit, go back up to the equivalent units, multiply each number to get the buckets where they fall into the buckets. Okay? So same concept, it's just we just have transferred in costs now. Okay? Now, in this example, what are we doing? We're dealing with the first in, first out. Same concept, we still have 460 to account for. Beginning inventory was 240. My started and completed was 200, so my work in process is 200. So same concept as before, except for remember, in, first out, we have to keep those what's already in the account separate than from what's completed. Okay? Got to break out what's totally completed by the two numbers. All right, so the information before, what do we know? We knew that we had already accounted for all the costs for transferred in costs. So that what we have to account for is nothing. So that's how I get 0 for that. Now, for materials, we had not accounted for any work in process, right? So 100 minus 0 is 100%. So we have to add all the direct material costs in there. And then for conversion cost, we had accounted for 62.5%. So we still have to account for what? 37.5%? So I take 37.5 times 240, and that's how I got the 90. Okay? Then for started and completed, of course, remember, started and completed means 100% across the board, right? So 100% of 200, 200 across the board. And then work in process, we have 100% of transfer in costs accounted for, none of the direct material costs accounted for, and then 80% of the conversion costs have been added. Okay? Does everybody understand how we got to those? Yes, no, maybe. All right, so equivalent units for transferred in is 400, direct materials is 440, and conversion costs are 450. Now, again, the step 3 are exactly the same for both processes. The difference is where in step 4?
Direct materials, 0.
Well, I mean, step 3 is the same as before. Yeah, the exact same. In step 4, where's the difference in step 4?
Well, you're just using the cost you added the current period.
Yeah, okay, so first in, first out, you're just using the cost that you added for that period, all right? So we're going to take the 52,480 divided by the equivalent units of 400. I get a 131.20, and then 13.2 divided by 440, get 30. And then 48.6 divided by 450, I get 108. Then in step 5, the first thing I do is bring down what was in beginning inventory. So that first line in step 3 comes straight down to step 5. And then I take the numbers, the equivalent units from step 1 and 2, multiply them by the cost per equivalent unit in step 4, and that's how I fill in the chart for step 5. Okay? Does everybody understand how we did that? Yes, no, maybe. Pretty, hopefully straightforward, right? Some of the points to remember about transfer in cost, be sure to include the transfer in cost from previous departments in your calculations. When calculating the cost to be transferred using the FIFO method, do not overlook costs that were in beginning work in process, which may now be part of units transferred. And units cost may fluctuate between periods, so transfer units may contain batches accumulated at different costs. Those units costs discussed in item 3 on the prior slide will be transferred to the next department at 1 average unit cost. Units may be measured in different denominations in different departments. One might be feet in one department, one might be yards, or kilos versus liters. So remember, when we're dealing with cost, things change between departments. How things are accounted for are different, in different departments. Yeah, okay? And so if that's the case, measurements must be converted to correct measures. I don't think we really have to deal with a whole lot of that, okay? Now, what is a hybrid costing system? Anybody want to take a guess? Don't read off there.
It's like 2 combined, or half computer, half paper.
Well, I mean, think of the hybrid cars. What are hybrid cars?
Half gas, half electric, so
Yeah.
half computer, half paper.
Okay, so hybrid costing system is basically the combination of 2 different types of costing systems. All right, and it depends on the situation itself, okay? So product costing systems do not always fall neatly into job costing. It does not always fall neatly into process costing. So they blend the characteristics of both job costing and process costing. And many actual production systems are a hybrid of the 2. You're not going to have a purely job costing one. You're not going to have a purely process costing. Manufacturers of television, dishwashers, the washing machines, and shoes who tend to use hybrid systems. Okay. Hybrid cost system uses process costing to account for the conversion costs and job costing for the materials and customizable components. One specific type of hybrid costing system is known as the operation costing system, which I don't think we do a whole lot with. So we'll just go over it. I don't think there's any homework assignments over it, and I won't test over it. So, but just so you know, an operation is a standardized method or technique that is performed repeatedly, resulting in different finished goods. An operating costing system is a hybrid costing system applied to batches of similar but not identical products. Within each operation, all products units are treated exactly alike using identical amounts of the operation's resources, and managers find operation costing useful in cost management because operation costing focuses on control of physical processes or operations of a given production system. All right, so that is process costing and how we deal with it. Okay? So, now, your homework assignments. Well, let's talk about the discussion first. What is the discussion question this week?
What we feel about Jack Gruden?
Jack.
Who's Jack? Huh?
Jack Grooves. Grubman. What's that?
Grubman.
Grubman.
Grubman. Who is Jack? Anybody remember?
I read it and I don't remember him.
Okay.
Not well on
He's
the-
not, I think we're gonna see him later on in the book again. I'm not sure. But Jack is the guy, he is a Wall Street analyst who is very high. There's 2 Wall Street analysts that they talk about so far. Jack and Dan, right? Dan isn't so hot on WorldCom, and Jack is, right? And Jack brokered the deal of, I think, might be the start of the end, because the company that Jack brokered the deal with was the first company that WorldCom bought that was not profitable. And there was a lot of legal issues going on with that company, wasn't there? Yeah, okay. And then I guess if you didn't catch this, I think usually what happened when WorldCom bought a company, their executives would come over to WorldCom and then eventually leave. And Cynthia was talking about, she went to some meeting in New York, and the guy from the company that Jack brokered to deal with was there and wasn't looking too happy. And eventually, yes, he was one of the ones that left, and Jack kind of went with him, with his business instead of still staying with WorldCom's business. Because Jack took a job at a bank, didn't he? Or I don't know, not a bank, but like an investment firm. So the question is basically, what do you think of the Wall Street analyst Jack Grubman, and do you believe he contributed to the loss of investors? Was Jack's opinion regarding the deal that he helped set up? Does this impact your personal opinion of Wall Street and investing? So it kind of gave you a background of some of the things that go behind the scenes. So what do you guys think of Wall Street and investing? That you kind of find something, people who like analyze the things or involved in the deals themselves. What are your thoughts? Think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Anybody? Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, right? Because analysts, they know a lot about different companies, right? And so they could possibly see the good, the good of one company combined with the good of another company would make a better company. But then again, they might be a bad thing because it might be for their own benefit. So, all right, so that's the discussion. So make sure you get the discussion going. And again, remember when you're doing the discussion, what I want to see with your responses, don't just say, yes, I agree. I don't want to see one sentence stuff. I want to see some details. Why do you agree? Or maybe you take a different approach than what they did. Well, okay, I thought, what is it? Maybe they said they contributed to the loss of investors. Maybe you take the side that he didn't, and why didn't he contribute to the loss of investors? Okay? Because you could say, okay, that was not the end. If WorldCom had taken that company and really started working with that company, then it could have turned out good for investors, right? Or say, to try to take the opposite view and try to, expand upon that, okay? All right, then your homework assignment. So the first thing you have is the comprehensive problem. And basically what you have to do is you have to read the scenario, and you have to answer the questions. Should Ms. Allgood use job order or process costing? And then list the individual types of costs would likely incur. So you go through this, okay, and just pull out what you see as her costs. How could estimate her overhead rate per portrait when she does not know the number of portrait? How could she do that? And, will not hire employees, would she have labor costs? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Well, yeah, of her own labor.
Yeah, with her own labor.
Many people don't take that in consideration though.
Well, I do. My labor's
I can see
expensive.
going around that.
Yeah,
I can't see that.
because it's your business.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, so do you really count your labor or do you not?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you know, because
Got
your
to.
time is worth something, right?
Right.
Your time is worth stuff. So you might not, some people might not think so, but your time is worth it. All right, so then the assignment. You have 17-6, 17-9, 20, 21, 22, 24, and 25. So you have quite a bit to do this week. Happy spring break, right? All right, and again, most of this is, you know, like 19 and 20 are pretty much the same problem, except for you're doing it at a different viewpoint, okay? Same thing with 20 and 21, 24 and 25. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're pretty much the same problem, but you're approaching it, one's FIFO, one's one weighted average, I think. I'm not positive. I haven't looked at them for a while,
That's what it
so.
is.
Okay, so again, I give you pretty much the lines, you just have to plug in the numbers. Use Excel to its fullest extent. Use the formula, you know, function. Everybody understand how to put in a formula into Excel, right? Okay? You know, please use that so that you don't shortchange yourself on some of the calculations. Okay? Any questions? Comments or concerns? Okay?
I wait for that every time you ask questions now. I'm so
You know,
used to
I
you
have
saying it.
since, you know, ever since the first day I started teaching, I always said questions, comments, and concerns. And that's your cue, if you do, that, hey, I'm at a
Yeah.
stopping point.
Yes.
You know, this
Yeah.
is the time to raise your hand. I don't mind you raising your hand throughout the lecture, but that's a good time to, you know, to do it. And if no one says anything, I'm assuming everybody understands everything, and I'm moving on.
Earlier when you said any questions, you didn't say anything and didn't say anything. I was like comments or concerns, and then you were like comments or concerns.
All right.
I was kind of waiting for all three.
All right, so over the next week, don't wait until, you know, after spring break to get this done. Try to get it done early. Send it over to me. Let me look at it if you're having some issues with it. But I think if you look at the PowerPoints, which are located under archived lectures, or look at your book because the same information's in your book, you'll be able to, you know, follow the examples and do this homework assignment, okay? And again, if you have any questions, let me know, okay? You guys have a wonderful break.
You have, well,